Welcome back, guys, to Sacred Jedi Texts. Now, today we are going to be running through Chapter 24 of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. It's a bit of a longer chapter, so I'm going to make this really short. Just thank you for being here. Thanks for your support. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on the video. We're going to be going into Han's point of view. Then we'll see some stuff from Captain Pellaeon, Luke, and Mara. It's a really exciting chapter, so let's go ahead and get into it. So Chapter 24 starts out in Han's point of view. We pick up with him after the Imperials have left Card's establishment on Merkur. Card has gotten Han and Lando and is bringing them back to the main room so that they can finish dinner. Han questions Card about dealing with the Empire, and Card tells him that if he is not going to work with the New Republic, then he is definitely not going to work with the Empire. And as all this is going on, Card knows that Ghent told Han and Lando everything that was going on. Han then asks what the Empire wants, and Card tells him that they want Salamiri, but that he doesn't know what they do. So Han tries to get Card to tell him Thrawn's name, but Card says that he can't, and Han even tries to pay Card to tell him, but Card still won't give up Thrawn's name. Han then tells Card that they are going to leave, he and Lando, but Card says that the Chimera is still in range, and would be able to shoot the Millennium Falcon down if it tried to escape. Han says stuff like, I've escaped Star Destroyers before and all this, but he reluctantly agrees to at least stay and finish their dinner and the night as well. However, he tells Card that he and Lando are going to go back to the Falcon for a few minutes, but he promises that they're not going anywhere, that they'll come back inside and eat dinner in a minute. When they start heading back, Han tells Lando that he wants to check out the storage shed and find out anything he can on this prisoner that Card was holding. They make their way over to the sheds and find that shed number 4 was locked, but that someone blasted through it. As they start to investigate the inside of the shed, the two split up. Han goes into the room that R2 was being held in, and he notices a restraint collar, thinking that that's strange. And while this is going on, Lando's checking out that room that Luke was in. All of a sudden, Card walks in. Han points his blaster at Card, but he then lowers it and tells Card that they need to be more careful, just leaving their equipment lying around like the restraint collar. Card then tells Han that they don't kidnap people and that their prisoner basically just fell out of the sky to them. And Han asks who it was, and Card says that that information is not for sale. Lando then walks in, and he throws Han the power cell that Luke used to get out of his room. Remember, Luke used his cybernetic hand. He took one of the power cells out of it to power the shed back up since Mara cut the power off, and that's how he was able to escape his room and get R2 out. Lando, when he throws the power cell over to Han, tells Han to look at the symbol of who the maker was, and Han recognizes it, and so does Lando. Lando knows exactly whose it was, and Han kind of looks at the power cell, and Lando tells him, comes from a cybernetic hand, and Han then looks over and sees that the restraining collar had some skid marks below it that were in the perfect pattern of the wheels of an R2 unit. So Han raises his blaster to Card again, pointing it straight at him. Card admits that Luke was their prisoner, and he also tells him that Mara found Luke. He also says that he was just trying to hide Luke from the Empire, the same that he was doing for Han and Lando. He then tells Han and Lando how Mara wants to kill Luke, how they crashed their ships and the two are out there in the forest alone, and says that he can only hope that they're working together to get back. Han then asks to see Luke's X-Wing, and Card tells him that they can, but that they need to wait until morning. Han, knowing that Card would have already wiped any information off of the X-Wing, he agrees, and he kind of trusts Card a little bit, since Card didn't hand any of them over to the Empire. Han then says that they have to go out into the forest to look for Luke, and Card agrees, but he says that they'll talk more about it and then take action in the morning when there's no predators to worry about in the forest. Then Card invites them back to dinner. The point of view then switches over to Captain Pellaeon's for a short bit. He is on the Chimera looking at Thrawn's art when Thrawn walks in. Thrawn asks Pellaeon if he has found them, and when he says them, he's meaning Luke and Mara. And although it is important to remember that the Empire doesn't know that it's Luke yet, and they don't know about Mara. They know that something happened, and Thrawn especially is very suspicious of it. Pelion says no, that they haven't found him, that the trees, which remember have some metallic content in them, are messing with their radar and their sensors, and Pelion says he doesn't understand why Thrawn cares so much about a smuggling dispute. However, Pelion does tell Thrawn that they will have to come out at Hilliard City, Luke and Mara will, because it's the closest civilization, and Thrawn commends Pelion, but then orders him to send 3 squads of stormtroopers to the city, along with a half-biker scout unit and 3 chariot light assault vehicles. Thrawn can almost tell that Pelion is wondering why he's making such a big deal about this, and Thrawn then tells Pelion that Karrde lied to them, that there was absolutely no way that it was just a common thief who escaped and stole some things from them. Pelion then starts putting things together and says it was something they didn't want the Empire knowing about. Thrawn agrees, and then says that it is also strange Karrde never helped them find Luke, and even more strange that he considered the search for Luke over. Thrawn then asks Pelion what that might suggest, and Pelion is like, "You mean that was Skywalker that escaped?" Thrawn says it's definitely an interesting speculation, and even though it is unlikely, it would be worth following up on. Pelion says that if they stay too long, they will have to delay the Sluis Vaughn attack, but Thrawn says that they can't do that at all. He then says that those 3 squads of stormtroopers should be more than enough to handle Luke, and also handle Karrde if Karrde were to get in the way. The point of view then switches over to Mara's. She and Luke and R2 are in the forest just as dusk is switching over to the pitch black of night. Mara can feel that she twisted her ankle in the ship crash, and it's bothering her a little bit. She's just getting set down for the night, and Luke is already lying down with R2 beside him. Luke says that it reminds him of Endor with how noisy the forest is, and Mara tells him about the predators that are nearby. She then displays her knowledge of the forest and the surrounding area to Luke, and then thinks back to when she first joined Karrde's crew. She recalls to herself going around and studying the surroundings, making sure to take everything in, and do all of the proper research that would help her stay alive. She then wonders about Karrde. She tells herself that she doesn't owe him anything, since she's constantly worked for him for so long, and she wonders why he would even continue to search for her and not stop until he finds her. As Mara continues thinking, R2 starts beeping, and Luke says that the droid has picked up on something on his scanner. Mara, however, already knew that there was a creature nearby, as she could see its shadow moving slowly through the forest. She turns on her glow rod, which I guess is kind of like a flashlight, and she points it in the direction of the shadow, and it turns out to be a Vornsker. The Vornsker starts edging toward Luke for some reason, not Mara, not even paying attention to her, just Luke. It inches closer and closer to him, and all of a sudden Mara just puts a blaster bolt straight through its head, dropping it instantly. Luke thanks her, and then asks about Karrde's pet Vornskers, noting that they had their tails removed, unlike the ones in the wild. Mara is impressed by Luke's attention to detail, and tells him that Karrde had their tails cut off, since they're like whips and they're poisonous, and that it also makes them more domestic and less aggressive. She tells Luke that Karrde is thinking of selling them as guard pets, but he doesn't know the right market, and Luke jokingly tells her that if Karrde needs, he can be a reference for him, and then Luke lays down to go to sleep. Mara then stares at Luke and notices that he is extremely calm, considering he's on a planet that he doesn't know the name and location of, he's with someone that wants to kill him, and the Empire is right above their heads. She thinks that if there were ever a time for him to be worried, scared, or at least full of adrenaline and be wide-eyed not wanting to sleep, it was now, but for whatever reason, he was as calm as he could ever be. She thinks that there may be more to Luke than meets the eye, and she decides that she's going to find out exactly what it all is from Luke before he dies. Mara then tells herself that she is going to be the one to kill him. She will definitely be the one to get the job done, not anyone else, and especially not the Empire, but her. The point of view then switches over one more time in the chapter. This time we get to finish it out with Karrde, who is sitting in a chair outside with one of his pet Vornskers. Karrde's just chilling. He's just sitting out there thinking about the crazy day that he's had, when Aves walks up to him and sits down beside him. Aves tells Card that Ghent is still trying to decrypt Mara's mystery message that was sent through Luke's X-Wing, and the both of them don't really know what she was thinking by sending it, because even though they didn't want the Empire to decrypt it, they are still having a very hard time decrypting it themselves. Card then asks if Han and Lando got into their rooms and to bed okay, and Aves tells him that they actually went back to the Falcon to sleep there. He also notes that he doesn't think that they trust him. Card says that he can't really blame them, and that once they pull Luke's computer logs from his X-Wing in the morning, Han and Lando might finally be on their side. Card then reminds Aves that Han and Lando are their guests, and that yes, they are on their side. Card then instructs Aves to put together a party for the morning to look for Luke and Mara. He then says that the Imperials probably won't do any more searching for them, but did admit to seeing a ship leave the Star Destroyer discreetly. He says that it is likely heading to Hilliard City to wait for Luke and Mara there, and of course from what we read earlier in the chapter, Card's exactly right. And Card then says that they need to find the pair of them before they make it to the city and fall into Imperial hands. Aves says that that won't be a problem, that many of Card's men are actually willing to help Luke, since he got them out of permanent debt by killing Jabba, which, as a side note, is a bit of information that I find pretty interesting, but it honestly makes sense why they would think so. Card says that their loyalty to Luke, almost loyalty, I guess you would say, it kind of worries him a little bit, because if they can't get Luke back before he is seen by the Empire, they can't let Luke stay alive, and Card is worried that some of his men might not want to kill Luke. Aves then says that he needs to go back to the command center and see how Ghent is doing with the message. Card tells him that he needs to get some rest soon, that they have a busy day tomorrow. Aves leaves, and Card goes back to thinking about everything that has been sprung on him. Card then hears a Vornsker purr in the distance, and then compares Mara to a Vornsker. Like his pets, he had tried to domesticate her, but she was still wild in a lot of ways. Card then wonders if Mara will ever be able to be tamed, and he also wonders if she is just going to end up killing Luke to be rid of him, and he then hears another purr from the wild Vornsker from the forest, but this time it sounds closer. On that note, Card tells his pet Vornsker that they better get inside, but he turns to take one last look at the forest and is then overrun with a touch of fear. Card knows that whatever happens isn't going to be good, and that his life on Merkur was probably at an end. So that wraps up chapter 24 of Heir to the Empire. Like I said, longer chapter, lot of information in here, but everything is still moving so fast. It really picked up. In the next chapter, we will actually be transitioning back to Kashyyyk to check up on Leia and Chewbacca. And so that'll be in the next video. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hope you've been enjoying the book. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and just keep reading Star Wars.